look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then, one more time. Tally, now! I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa! No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait! Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost there. Okay. Oh! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. 할래니 נפשי ישובב ינחני במגע לצדק למען שמו.
What if there were a Bible movie that was as powerful as The Prince of Egypt and as fun as Tangled? That's about as likely to happen as David beating Goliath. See what I did there? Well, it's happening. We are making an epic David and Goliath animated film. David will be an animated feature film that shows the power of the David story with the humor, music, and adventure of your favorite animated movie. With your investment, we can bring David to life with the production quality of a classic animated film while revealing God through one of the Bible's most powerful stories.
Did you see that? Anyone?
A group of filmmakers in South Africa called Sunrise Animation Studios has been carefully assembling the right team to make David. This David project has already generated $19 million in investments and inspired some of the world's leading animation film professionals to leave major Hollywood studios and be a part of this story. The Sunrise team includes senior contributors to movies like Moana, Monsters, Inc., Soul, and Big Hero 6. As well as Grammy Award-winning composers. Basically, David is the answer to the question, what if the best Bible stories were told by the world's best animators and musicians? Click the link to learn how to invest in David today. David tells the story of a young shepherd who gains fame as a musician and a warrior for the king.
I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine.
He shows the viewer what it truly means to be a man after God's own heart. David is the original underdog that has gone on to inspire the greatest underdog stories of all time. Don't believe me? Just re-watch Harry Potter and Star Wars. Instead of using magic or the Force to defeat giant villains, David uses the power of God to overcome a literal Goliath. And he reminds each of us that we're the underdog of our own stories. And through God, all things are possible. David's story has never been told on a cinematic level. And to accomplish that, you need a combination of a good budget and good storytellers. The faith community has the right storytellers, but most independent Bible films look like independent Bible films. But with your investments, combined with the storytelling prowess of Sunrise Animation Studios, we are finally telling David's story in a way that belongs on the silver screen. And, did I mention, it's a musical? So beautiful. The creation of David the movie is a Goliath-sized story. Sunrise knew that in order for a small film studio to make an epic movie on par with the big boys, they'd have to nail it between the eyes, pun intended. And after all these years, they've assembled the right team to go the distance. All that's missing is you. Click the link to watch a small teaser we made for David. David will be distributed by Angel Studios, the same film studio behind the smash hit success The Chosen, a TV show about Jesus that has over 300 million views and has generated over $100 million in revenue. Sunrise Animation Studios created Jungle Beat, an animated brand that has a feature movie on Netflix with a sequel in production and gets 140 million monthly views on YouTube. If they can do that with a monkey and an elephant, imagine what they can do with one of the most iconic figures of all time. When you invest in the animated film David, you're not just helping to create an epic animated adventure based on one of the most popular books of all time. You could actually share in the profits. Of course, we can't guarantee that you'll make a Goliath amount of money, but we will say the Prince of Egypt made $218 million in revenue at the box office, plus 2 decades of DVD, TV, and streaming sales. David has everything the Prince of Egypt has, like powerful songs and breathtaking animation. And one thing it doesn't, this baby lamb. You do the math. And aside from the potential financial return, bringing such an important story to life can be incredibly rewarding.
Hi there, my name is Phil Cunningham, and I was inspired by this character and thought if we could tell an animated feature film around the life of David, it would inspire people to take on the giants in their life and to live bigger, braver, bolder lives.
David has the chance to be the next big movie that every kid, parent, and Pixar fan will fall in love with. Click the link and invest today.
Hi everyone, a super warm welcome to this live stream about David, the animated feature film. I just want to give you a quick highlight about what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's one thing to produce an incredible movie, and that's only half of the challenge. The next challenge is, can you distribute it? And just to give you a tease the lineup for tonight, I'm so excited to be welcoming Neal and Jeff Harmon, the founders of Angel Studios. We're going to get to that later in the program. They're going to be joining us tonight. also going to be talking about our perks for anyone who invests. I just want to go through what are the perks, and I'm so excited. I think we've come up with a very special set of perks for people who invest. And yeah, so those are the main two things we're going to be jumping into tonight. I'm also going to do a bit of a recap after the perks, and before I introduce Neal and Jeffrey properly, I'm going to do a quick recap on what we've been talking about up to tonight. The one thing I just want to encourage you guys, if you've got questions, please drop them into the line and we'll gladly get to them at the end. In fact, before I get onto the perks, I think I'll just do a super quick recap. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the production. And I just want to share with you a couple of things and just a quick recap. Why David? And I know I share this at the beginning of every live stream, but I think it's absolutely crucial. Why David? And I just want to recap. I grew up in the wilds of Africa, and out there I encountered God in a thunderstorm, in the charge of a lion. And the one thing I wanted to say to you, I've honestly seen a lion charging me across the Zambezi plain, and it comes across the plain. There's so much power and energy. And I remember this one lion charging me and just stopped like meters away. And I was looking into its yellow flecked eyes, and its tail was swishing. And in my mind, I was like, wow, David took on one of these lions and he fought it. But out in the wild of Africa, that's where I fell in love with God. And in David's story, I saw a chance to give people a glimpse of God's heart, an adventurous, expansive, exciting personality, also kind and beautiful. So that's why David, 20 years ago, I had this dream to tell David's story. Why animation? Animation has this power to cross race, cultural, age, and gender barriers better than any other medium. I'm so passionate about animation. Animated theatrical films can get around the globe and just connect with all ages, whether you're 5 years old or 90 years old. You can enjoy a great animation story. And so that's why animation. And one of the things with David, we were just saying, if you saw it in the build-up to this, and thanks so much for the investments. I'm going to get to the investments in a moment, but I see already we're getting some investments, which is so exciting for us, by the way. But if I had to choose two movies to try and give a blend of what we would like to make, it's The Prince of Egypt and Tangled. The beauty and the authenticity and the production design of a movie and the music like Prince of Egypt, and then the energy and humor and action that you would find in a movie like Tangled. So that's just to give you a bit of a taste of what this film is about. The other thing I want to say we've just tackled in previous live streams is the incredible work that's gone into the project so far. There's already been $19 million spent. We've done 4 research trips to Israel. And as we laid out in live streams before, we are passionate about our research, about creating an authentic movie that's deeply rooted in research and in the literature and obviously on the Bible. So we've got this deep passion to be authentic and to do our research properly. And we've gone very deep in that. The other thing I wanted to say, for those of you who don't know, this is a musical. It's got such beautiful musical numbers. And again, I just want to say it again. I know I've said it before, but if you can make a musical like The Greatest Showman on P.T. Barnum's life, we can absolutely make a cracking musical out of David's life. We know he wrote half the Psalms in the Bible. He was authentically an incredible songwriter and musician. And near the end of his life, when he was dying, he described himself as Israel's singer of songs. So I just want to say it's a musical. We're doing our research. And then I'm passionate about story. Ever since I was a tiny boy, I've loved story. And as I got to university, I was struck by the power of story. It's like a Trojan horse. It carries a message, for good or bad, that can get under people's defense mechanisms and plant a seed. And so I love story. I love watching stories, and I love telling stories. And we have gone over the last 20 years, and we've built the most incredible team and pipeline. It's a crawl, walk, run journey. And as we talked about earlier, there's movies like Jungle Beat, the movie that we've done. But this is our big goal. This is what we've been aiming at, and this is where we're going. What I want to say as I get onto pledges is a movie like this is a massive undertaking. If you look at your Disney movies, they are north of $150 million. So we can't do it without the support of this incredible community. And I'm going to get to Angel Studios and how critical they've been in our journey, and they are in distribution as well. But yeah, investment is what's needed to really get this movie to the level. Because what we don't want to do is make a movie that just it doesn't stack up against the best of the best in the world. So that's one of our passions. So I just want to go through the perks, because I think we've got a very special set of perks for those of you who do invest. And I'm just going to run through them one by one. So you can invest for as little as $100. And for that, you'll obviously be a shareholder, but also you'll get regular newsletter updates. and you're going to get regular periodic updates from the David team in your inbox. So we're going to keep connected with you. If you invest $100, you're part of our journey, you're part of the team, and you're going to be kept up to date. So that's for $100. If you invest $250 or more, you're going to, if the movie is streamed, in other words, a streaming version of the movie, you'll get a streaming credit roll mention. So your name will be in the credits if it's in the streaming format. And if you invest $500, then you'll get a full credit roll mention, and your name will be listed in the cinema version. We're going to get onto cinema in a moment. One of our passions is to get this movie into cinema. So you'll get into that credit roll if you invest $500 or more. And then we're going to go to the next level. If you invest $1,000 or more, you get all, and by the way, every time we go up a perk, you get all the previous perks that come before it. I'll mention that again, but just so you know. And here you get the quarterly video updates. You'll receive quarterly video updates from the directors and producers of David, plus all previous perks. So each quarter, you'll get a video of ourselves just reporting back on how the project's going, where it's going. A movie like this takes 2 years to make, at least. I mean, we've already been at it for over a year, so let's say there's 2 years to go. So there's a few quarterly feedbacks you'll get as video. And then the next perk, if you go to $2,000 or more, you'll get a director's cut of the trailer. And so that's plus previous. And then let's go to the next perk. And if you do $5,000 or more, you'll get a signed film poster plus all the previous perks. So we will, as directors, we'll sign a poster of the movie for you and get that delivered to you when the movie poster comes out. And then if you go to, I think the next is 10,000. Oh, this is, I think, a very special perk. You'll get a signed version of the final shooting script. And when you know how much work goes into building out a script, this will be like a collector's item, in my opinion. And it's going to be a beautiful piece to keep and to put down and have a signed copy of the final script. So that's for people who invest $10,000 or more. And then we'll go to the next perk, $20,000 or more. Oh, we're going to make a beautiful behind-the-scenes film. We have got some of the world's, we've already got, just for those of you listening, over 700 to 800 pieces of beautiful concept art, like the one you can see in the background of this screen right now. So we're going to put together a beautiful behind-the-scenes coffee book with the character development, the art development. Yeah, it's going to be a really beautiful piece that can go on the coffee table. And for people who invest $20,000 or more, you'll get a copy of that book as well. And then the next perk is $50,000. And this is, we're going to create a limited edition canvas. So a beautiful piece that will become from the David, selected from the development art, and it'll be printed on a canvas for you and delivered, plus the book, plus the script. And just to reiterate, if you invest $50,000, you don't just get the limited edition canvas, you get the book and you get all the previous things like the signed script, etc. And then we'll move on to the next, which is $100,000 or more. And I think this is a big one because it's very hard on an IMDb profile to get credits in a movie. But we really recognize that without people coming on board and helping us produce this, we can't get there. So I think this is a big one to give away, but we've really talked a lot about it, and we feel that we would like to give associate producer credits to anyone who invests $100,000 or more, because that really is a significant investment. And people who invest that much, it really is a massive contribution to the success of the film. So you'd receive all the previous perks plus that credit. So we can go to the next one. And then for $300,000 or more, there'll be actually an executive producer credit, which is, even obviously an executive producer is even a higher credit than associate producer. And we know in the filmmaking, in the film world, you don't easily come by an executive producer credit. So, but again, someone who's put in that significant investment, we really like them to feel rewarded and be part of the executive producer group and get that credit. And then there's one more perk, which to go on this slide, and that's if you do $500,000 or more, besides all the previous credits like the executive producer credit and all this stuff, there'll be an invitation to the world premiere, which I think is going to be the most epic. When you hear me talk with Neal and Jeff just now on our thoughts and plans on where we're going, I think you'll start to get a feeling of what an epic opportunity it'll be to be at that premiere. So there's an invitation to the world premiere for anyone who does $500,000 or more. So just to say, if you've got any questions as we go, please feel free to just pop them down there. But the theme of tonight is distribution. And before I introduce Neal and Jeffrey, who are just the most incredible people from Angel Studios, the founders, Neal, the founder, and Jeffrey, the co-founder, I just want to quickly tell you a story of my feeling about these guys. Because I've met them. Two of the brothers came out and spent some time with us in Africa, and I just had the most incredible time because I realized I was dealing with a group of people and a family that thinks out the box and are brave and are ready and willing to disrupt a market with imagination. And if I can quickly tell you one story, just to illustrate how I see the Angel Studios people and brand, it's a story about Sir Francis Drake. And Sir Francis Drake was an incredible British Navy general. The British Navy, when he was there, when he first started, was extremely poor. They had small ships, they were underfunded, and the Spanish Armada was a very well-funded navy, massive fleet of ships, and they were about to go to battle. And the Spanish Armada was moored in what they called the Lion's Den, which was their harbor. So what Sir Francis Drake did, no one expected it, at least the Spanish. He sailed across the sea. He went straight into the Lion's Den, into the Spanish harbor. And because he was in small ships, he sailed straight into the Lion's Den, and he opened fire on the Spanish ships in their own harbor. So for one, they didn't see it coming. They didn't expect it. For two, their guns were too big. If they opened fire and tried to hit the British Navy, they would have hit their own ships. So he sunk the entire Spanish Armada in their own harbor, then retreated, having won that battle. And then it took the Spain 8 years to rebuild their navy. And in the meantime, he managed to build up the British Navy. So what I want to say, in the world of filmmaking and business, you disruptors and people with imagination. Thank you so much, Mimi from Florida, investing $100. Every $100 just takes us on our journey. So thank you. And Brian from $150. We really appreciate you guys so much. And by the way, welcome to the family. Welcome to the adventure. We're going to be on a journey together. And I'm so glad to have you guys on the journey. And what I want to say about Neal and Jeffrey, they remind me of Sir Francis Drake. They are brave. They've got great imagination. And most importantly, they're amazing people of integrity, and people I've grown to love so much. So with that little introduction, I'd really like to invite Neal and Jeffrey to this live stream. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you for having us on.
No, thank you guys. Neal, Jeffrey, so good to see you guys again, and welcome. Thanks for joining us on this live stream. And maybe I can kick off with a few questions. I just want to start. I've just been hearing how incredibly well your theatrical effort or cinematic effort with The Chosen is going right now in December. Can you maybe, I'd just love to hear more about it, and maybe you could just tell our audience a bit about what it is, how it's going, and what you think it means for our future as we look at other projects in cinema.
Go ahead. So we launched on December 1st, Christmas with The Chosen. We had not planned on doing a theatrical release of The Chosen, but during season 2, we did a live stream with an audience in Dallas, Texas. And when Dallas tweeted to the audience that we were doing this event, he said, "There's a few seats. Who wants to come?" And within 8 minutes, they had filled 2,500 seats. And then when we were at the event, the energy level of that community being there together to watch that episode as it was released was very, very special. And we could tell that this community wanted to be together around this project. And so after that event, we said, let's go ahead and do this as a theatrical release. And on December 1st, we did Christmas with The Chosen, which we had done last year, but this time it was essentially a concert with a brand new episode in it. And we're really pleased that when the launch day, we were the #1 film in the entire United States by 2.5 times the first 2 days. And then we were #1 on the second day as well. We launched it in partnership with Fathom Events. And their model is really interesting, but their model is essentially to go and get the middle of the week days and fill them up because the theaters don't have enough business during that time. And so we did really well on the weekdays, but their model isn't built as well for the weekend and filling up the theaters on the weekend. So we don't know what it would have done had we not had that ceiling, but we were in 1,700 theaters, and not only did we beat Fathom's all-time record, we we had the number one film in the U.S. for a couple of days, which was fantastic.
And Fathom's all-time record was set by Peter Jackson last year with his film "They Will Not Be Forgotten." They Will Not Be Forgotten. The World War I documentary. So Peter Jackson had done 8 million, I think, is what it was, and we did $9 million on the first weekend.
And there's another
incredible.
week or so that we're going to be in the theater. So it would have been really fun to see what it would have been like had we not had the Fathom limit. But we're really grateful to Fathom and the fact that we were able to test this out and the community is receiving it so well.
And if you look at this isn't like a movie release. This was a concert, and so I know that I Can Only Imagine did $2 million of sales before it released in the theaters. So they had sold $2 million of tickets. We had sold over $6 million of tickets before release date. And so the chosen community, the key takeaway here is that it used to be that you go and you build up a huge release at a theater, and then you spend hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions or whatever it is on the release weekend, and you hope and pray it's going to work. Now, what we're pioneering is a model where you build a community for years before you go to the theater. So The Chosen, the reason why The Chosen did so well is because we spent years building this gigantic community. And the David team, like Daryl Eves is the mastermind behind this.
You mean the Chosen
team? Daryl Eves is the mastermind, and he has helped them nourish and build this community over years. And so this is a landmark moment for them where they go and they test theaters with Fathom events, which now, as they release season 3 and season 4 and season 5 and season 6 and season 7, there will be many opportunities as they get bigger and bigger and bigger to replicate what they're doing. And then what gets us really excited is this gives us the opportunity to build for David. So David is a multi-year building of a community. Right now, we're helping the David team. We're helping Phil, you, and your team build a community while you're raising your crowdfunding. And that's our job. Our job is to help you build your community while you're doing your crowdfunding, and then keep building the community until we're ready to go to theaters. And so this is just like a little indicator. There was Forbes just released an article on The Chosen saying it had a better opening weekend than most big Oscar contenders. So it's they were
the per theater average was multiples of all the other films.
Yes, yeah. So even like over the weekend, we didn't have very many screens because we were on the Fathom system, but the weekend was like almost completely sold out. Everything in my area I know was sold out. I can't say it was completely sold out because I don't know the exact number. I don't know if you have, but it's really exciting because we're getting our feet wet in the theater space, and this prepares us. This helps us understand how to get David out to the world, and we've got a lot of learning from this.
Yeah, that's what excites me. It's a like first taste or venture into cinema properly, with you guys. And I think what's amazing is your model of building a community. There's a verse that says the wisdom of God is foolishness to man, and the wisdom of man is foolishness to God. And often God turns things on its head. And just what you described, Jeffrey, there, the way of going about this is quite on its head. It's so disruptive, but it's full of imagination, and it's so different. So what really excites me about building community, like you're describing, is one is we need the investment to make an incredible David movie to compete with the Disney, but simultaneously you're building your audience, you're building your fans, and you're building your presence. And I think it's just such an ingenious model. You guys have taken on some. Sorry, there you go.
One more thing with the community is a lot of people think theater's dead, but the future of theaters is community. it's a place to gather and celebrate something the community has built around an idea. That's the way we see community, the way we see theatrical. Theatrical is a place where you get together with a group of people and you celebrate. It's not a place where you sneak in, sit in the corner, although people could still do that, but sit in the corner and watch the movie and then sneak out. The best experiences I've ever had at the theater are like opening night of Star Wars or opening night of some big event. You know, I know Harry Potters are like that, where everybody gets together and they all get to kind of be like, celebrate together. And that's how we're seeing theatrical releases.
Clap and cheer.
Yeah, clapping, cheering. Yeah. You can watch a really, like, theaters came around because nobody had color TVs at home. They didn't have big screens. They had these little tube screens. But now we have big screens. We have metaverse goggles. We've got all kinds of stuff. You can have a really good viewing and audio experience at home, but you can't have that community element of in-person community. And so that's how we see the future of film is all built around community. Even some of the NFT stuff we're doing and working on is still completely around enabling the community, which I'm not trying to get into the NFT stuff. I'm just trying to say, a lot of people say the future of film is NFTs. Well, the future of film is community. And the community happens to enable NFTs as well.
No, I love it. I just want to say, as a young boy, for me, dreaming and starting to imagine David, for me, it was always a cinematic film. The scale of it, the vistas and the scale of the story needed to be told in cinema. So just stopping for a moment, when you were in Africa, Jeffrey, and then Neal with us later, we were just dreaming. And one of the things we started dreaming about is like, okay, how do we make this? Because obviously my passion, our team's passion, is to get David's heart out to the world so that as many people in the world as possible can see this movie in cinema. And so we were starting to dream, and we started to say, could we set a goal? Like, is it unrealistic to set a goal where we release the most watched animated theatrical film ever in history? And I'm not saying the most dollars, but the most watched. I just want to brainstorm, because talking to you guys and seeing how your model around Pay It Forward on The Chosen evolved on the app, we started to take that thinking into cinemas. And I mean, obviously it's early days, but I'm so excited about this philosophy and where we started going. Do you guys maybe want to dive into a bit of our thinking around Pay It Forward for cinemas around the world? And I will dive into this.
First, let's go into Pay It Forward in general. So when we were trying to figure out how to get The Chosen out to the world, we started out by saying you can watch the first episode free, and then you got to pay for the next 3 episodes is the ones that were out. And we would sell that, and we sold a fair amount of on-demand episodes, but it would always like grow and then go back down, spend some money, goes back down. It would never ever just keep growing on top of growth. And we saw that everyone who was watching the show loved the show, but getting people to watch was really hard. So I bought a whole bunch of Neal did the same thing, bought like dozens and dozens of free movie viewing for people, friends, to gift them to go watch The Chosen. You send it to them by email, you talk to them, and no one was watching. And it was like 3% or 6% of people would watch.
I got a few more to start, but to finish, I got one person out of 100 to finish the show. Okay, so one person out of 100. So, but it was awful. But people who finished loved it. And I knew every single person who finished the show because they would come out of their way to tell me thank you for recommending the show. And then I started inviting people over to my house for Sunday dinner. And then I would sit them down on my couch and I would force them to watch 3 episodes of The Chosen just to see, like, what is the lift to get somebody to fall in love with this show. And if I got them to watch the 3 episodes, then they would finish watching. I was learning like really high conversion rate from start watching to finish watching if I sat them on my couch and forced them. And then our whole team was seeing this problem though of really great show. How do you get people to try it? And then we saw this activity online and we were testing all kinds of things, all different funnels, different messaging, different ads. I mean, we were spending tons of money figuring this out. And then we get to
this point where we realized in the Facebook group on The Chosen, people would get on and say, I would love to watch. I watched the first episode. I can't afford to buy the season. And every single time somebody would jump on and say, hey, send me your email. I'll pay for you. I'll pay you to watch. I'll pay for you to watch it. And it was like, the question was like, so how many of these kind of people are there? Is it a little group? Is it a big group that want to pay for others? And I had paid for a whole bunch of people to watch, but they didn't watch. So that was very unsatisfying. So then we as a group came up with this idea where we said, what if we can connect the people who want to watch but can't watch with the people who want to pay, and give instant gratification to the person who's paying with the person who's watching. And so we created the pay it forward model, where when you start watching, it says this episode was paid for by Larry from Virginia or whatever, and then, or Phil from South Africa paid for this episode. Pay it forward or just watch. And we launched that system, and we started seeing just immediate uptick. The show started spreading at a much more rapid rate, and people were paying it forward. And then we learned the same learning that Fortnite and Roblox have figured out with gaming, that if you give it away for free, there's still a lot of people who want to pay to be a part of the community. And they learned what they call the 99-1 rule. 90% of people just watch for free. 9% contribute. They pay into it. And 1% become like co-creators. And so what we're seeing is a similar thing, not the exact same numbers, but a 99-1 rule where 90% just watch the show, 9% actually come in and pay something into it, and 1% go and they go invest in new stuff like David and become co-creators. And so the concept here is, for Pay It Forward, is a way to have millions of people watching around the world, and our goal is to make this the #1 TV series of all time, The Chosen. That means we need to reach more than 1 billion people. And so if we're going to do that, this kind of free, frictionless model is really, really important. And The Chosen has done over $100 million. No, how much has it done? Over $85 million in sales, right? Something like that. I don't know the exact number offhand. I don't want to. Do you know? Okay. All right. So it's done over 85 million in sales. I know that. And last year it did over 36 million, was it?
It was over.
But it's over double.
Yeah, it was over 35 for sure.
Yeah, over 35 million. And then once you cut out all the marketing costs, and then you cut out all the team costs and everything, then the rest of it is funding itself into new shows. So you've got The Chosen, booming success. We just did $10 million in the box office for its first theatrical release. It's doing just huge amounts of revenue. And we're building a show to become the #1 show of all time for viewers. Then I'm in South Africa with Phil. And Phil says, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that it's, I liked Phil's analogy about the boats with Sir Francis Drake, that he used very small boats. And it reminded me of a memory of when we were young. We built this little raft and floated on the canals in Idaho. But when we say huge revenue, it's huge for us and for what we're doing, and we're excited about it because it's providing a return and it's making it possible to fund the future shows. But we're dealing in like peanuts as compared to the rest of the industry. They're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars, but the impact that we're having is much bigger per dollar of revenue than what the industry normally sees.
We're the biggest independent stuff. I mean, Passion of the Christ was the biggest ever independent project. And then you've got down below that, there's just nothing almost for a long time.
And I think we're okay with, we need these projects to be profitable so that they can grow. But we're okay with having the small ships that have an outside impact on the world, rather than the big ships that we can pound our chest and say, "Oh yeah, we've got the #1 box office in the world." We'd rather say, "No, more people
We got the most viewers.
have seen this in the world, and that we make a smaller amount of profit per viewer, as long as it's profitable. It's got to be profitable, but we want to have impact, and so that was all I was going to add. Was I thought that
Well, and on top of that, if you look at Fortnite, when they started, they go free, and they figured out, oh, we have a profitable model.
Yep.
But it was not more profitable than Halo and Call of Duty and these other big games that just you pay up front. But over time, they optimize and they optimize and they optimize. And then Fortnite became the most successful game of all time, both in playing and
total profits.
So I think there's a very good chance that we end up with a model through some optimization that ends up more successful than these old models. So, but that's not done yet. We're just to the point where it worked. And the goal here is influence and community first, and make sure that we have the profits and the economics to spread it to the world. So back to Phil. We're driving in Cape Town, talking about David, and Phil turns to me and he says, last night I was thinking about this, and I had this idea around your pay it forward model. He's like, what if, he's like, there are millions of people in Africa that have never been to a theater. There are millions of people in India that have never, hundreds of millions probably, that have never been to a theater. What if we made it to where people could pay forward a theatrical seat in all these countries around the world, and then we go rent up the theaters, and we bring, like, partner with churches and all kinds of groups to bring people in through the app.
How old were you when you watched your first movie in the theater?
I don't know. It was Aladdin. When did Aladdin come out?
I didn't watch one until I was at least 16 when I paid for my own ticket because our family couldn't afford to go to the theater.
I went to the dollar show of Aladdin. So what year is that? Aladdin, 1992. So I was 10 years old.
Okay. I wasn't.
First time.
Yeah. So my first time that I remember was when I was 16. It was on a date and I went to Lion King.
So I think my first one was probably 14. But Jeffrey, just to quickly dive in and let you carry on, but what started to explode my mind was because we're so involved, my family here in Africa and in a lot of work through into the poor areas in Africa. And just to see the imagination of these children and these young people, like they thirst for story and for life. And it just started to capture my imagination. If we could get this pay it forward model going, and there's a world map behind me. This is in our studio, but full cinemas in South America, in Africa, in Asia. And of course, we'll have a strategy for the first world as well. But I started to get so excited because I just see such potential in these kids I'm interacting with here in Africa. And I just think, David, the movie could really ignite their imagination and their spirits and open their hearts, and so if we can get a model. And I think cinema owners will love us because, cinemas are struggling with the whole situation with COVID. But this model brings communities back into cinema, like really gets the engines running in cinema again, which so it also excites me from an industry point of view as well as a, But
yes,
sorry, Jeff,
I totally agree with you. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So Phil brings this up, and it was like, at first it was like, that is really interesting, but I don't know how that works. And then as we got diving deeper and deeper into the logistics of how theaters work and how they, how you can connect into their ticketing systems, and it was like, if it's called four-walling.
Yep,
is where you buy a specific cinema, rent out the space, and then you just bring your people into the seats, and then we.
So if you can imagine that, because if you go onto the Chosen app, you can see. There's like a progress bar, and it says, this is how far we've raised the funds for season 3. If you can imagine that we have a progress bar that says, this is how many seats we've filled so far. And every time that we get this many pay it forwards, we can buy out and four-wall another theater in Africa, in South America, in the US, anywhere in the world. We can four-wall another theater and open up that many more seats for people to go to.
And then people come get the app, and then they can reserve their ticket to go to one of those free seats. and then they can send thank you notes and
people like us. Like, I mean, I'm just imagining for myself that as a 10-year-old that I got the ability to go to David in the theater, and makes me kind of emotional to think about it. So just because we couldn't afford to go to the theater, and so that's really exciting. I mean, the prospect of that, and that now we can be on the side of actually helping people have that kind of community experience that these theaters represent and that this story represents.
Yeah. And then for like the time before we release, I don't know how long it will end up being, but if we have the showing how many seats are filled, then eventually we set up and we figure out what the goal is, and we say, okay, the all-time most people watching a theatrical release is here, and then slowly watch the seats fill up, rather than gunning for the most profitable show of all time.
Right.
You gun for the most influence. And for example, we made a very specific decision as a distributor with The Chosen to not go after first world country languages out the gate. Like, the first languages we did were Hindi, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese.
Most theatrical
Arabic,
releases, they
Arabic.
Start with French, and they start with
Chinese. Yeah, they all start with French, Italian, German. You go to the big developed countries
where there are more profits.
And we decided that we were going to go after kind of the more humble part of the world first and give them the opportunity to see the show. And we're going to reach 1 billion people, I think. I mean, I can't say for sure we're going to reach 1 billion people but our goal is to reach over 1 billion people. And when we do, it will be 1 billion totally different people than the 1 billion people Game of Thrones reached. Like, there'll be overlap, but we're hitting a totally different demographic out the gate than the traditional model.
Yeah, it blows my mind, and my spirit just gets so excited by, just like you were saying, imagining like a 10-year-old kid going for his first time or her first time to the cinema and seeing David. And what I see with David is it's the perfect movie for this, because whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're secular, it's a movie that you'll want to go and see, because it's going to draw everybody in. He's the ultimate underdog story, David versus Goliath. We know that, and so what I think so magnetic about this film is that it's not alienating, it's unifying as a film. But in my heart in it is that it's got the heart of God in it, and people start to catch a glimpse of this, globally, this expansive, adventurous, exciting God. And then I start to get excited, because it's like, well, when I just imagine kids and families flocking into cinemas here in Zimbabwe, in Africa, and then around the rest of the world, it's so exciting. And I think we're going to make a movie that's as good as Tangled and Prince of Egypt. So even in the US, it's going to hold its own and do box office there. And going back to The Chosen and just the community, the result of that in the US, I just think it's such a good forerunner. It just tells us what we can do, which gets me so excited. I think we can take on the Spanish Armada this way. Yeah. So time is Michael, thanks so much for investing. That's $1,000. And by the way, that just to quickly recap on the perks, just because I haven't been tracking these, but that means you'd get a credit roll in the cinema version of the movie, as well as a quarterly video update from the directors and producers. So just a quick reminder on that perk for $1,000. But thank you so much. And I'm just so excited, because before I met Neal and Jeffrey, I just want to tell a quick story, because in terms of the David movie, it was a dream we've been working on for 20 years. And I think I might have mentioned this in one of the other live streams very briefly, but I just want to say there was a story where the disciples had been fishing all night and they caught nothing. And they were coming back in the morning and they saw Jesus, and he said, cast your nets on the other side. And they did that. And when they cast their nets, they were filled to breaking. And, the David movie, we really fished all night. We went to a lot of the big studios and there was interest, but it didn't feel like the right thing. It didn't feel like we caught the right thing. And then when we met the Angel guys, and their model was so on the other side of the boat. But what I loved most about your guys' model and imagination was community. Because, Neal, I think you were going back to whether you're talking NFTs or you're talking cinema or you're talking streaming, the formats and the technology and the way it's done is not really the key. The key is community. And that's what really excites me with what you guys are building in all your projects, Chosen and others. Like I see Wing Feathers poster behind you there as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you guys want to just end off saying anything about community and if anything to wrap up. But I just love what you guys are doing at Angel Studios. I think it's game-changing, not just in terms of David, but in terms of the industry and in terms of where God is moving in movies and series. And I'm just really so excited to be connected with you guys and working with David with you. But yeah, have you got any closing comments on community or disrupting a market or any final thoughts?
Do you?
So I think that that there's to Jeffrey's point on that potentially these projects could become even more successful financially long term. We can't make any guarantees of that. But what media does and what stories do, you shared that it's kind of like a Trojan horse where people put down their guard and then they're able to open themselves to something good or bad.
I mean, that's scripture, right?
Yeah.
Before film, it's just storytelling. It's just
Yeah.
It puts down your guard. God teaches His doctrine through stories.
Right. So when that happens, these stories have large impacts on society long term. I mean, these are intergenerational impacts, especially the really, really, really landmark films that define our culture and our society.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do, and I think we are successfully doing that, is providing a way for regular people to be part of that story in a way that matters to them and matters to the film and the story reaching as many people as possible. The last thing that I would just simply say is that when people have ownership in something, when it becomes part of who they are, it changes the game. And so the best example that I can think of this is that early in our company, we were sued by a huge media company, Disney, and fortunately we survived that lawsuit. That's the reason we're here today, and we've had a miraculous story that we can tell another day. But when we were sued, our customers were so excited about helping us that they asked to be able to donate money to help with the litigation against Disney. And they started donating, and over 3 months' time, they donated a few $100,000. But then we gave them the chance to invest in Angel Studios, and after they did, there was $10 million invested in 5 days. Wow. And the difference was that in one, they are part of the story. They own part of the story. They're partners, right? And then in the other one, it was just a donation. Well, some of these things that David is on the forerunner of. David's doing a crowdfunding campaign right now, and raising money and finding partners. We're also working on technologies around NFT that allows people to own part of the story, but
not just consume.
And so when we talk about community is really about caring for you have love for other people. You want to have a good impact in society, so you give, right? You give to a community so that the community can be better.
That experience.
That's right. But if you as a person, you get to own a piece of that, and as that community grows, the recognition, both financially and otherwise, for what you've done grows. That's rewarding. And I think that what we're going to see happen with David and other projects is an unlocking of community, because people are part of these stories that matter.
Yeah, I love that. Sure, Neal, that's beautifully put. I really love it. It's making so much sense. Oh, Steve, thank you. And if it's the same Steve Cleary, I actually did an interview with him. Steve's an amazing guy, and I did an interview with him last weekend. So, Steve, thanks so much for investing. That's very kind of you, and great to have you on the team. But Neal, I think you put it so well. Maybe I could just end off with dreaming for one more moment. And by the way, we don't just dream; we do a lot of hard work, and we've been at this for 20 years. So, but if we allow ourselves to dream, the one thing that I was thinking with David is, and this is linked to community so closely, is for those who invest in this film, one of our dreams is once we've made a beautiful, amazing film, is to take David to Broadway and do a Broadway musical on David. And I was kicking this around with Jeffrey a little bit, saying how powerful will the whole community be in driving something like that. And just to give you a quick idea of how powerful that is, so the Lion King Broadway musical is the single biggest earner for Disney out of any property in the ecosystem, film or merchandise or theme park. It's earned $8 billion as a Broadway musical for Disney over the years. And
it made $1 billion in the theaters, if I remember right, maybe $2 billion.
Yeah, it did maybe $1 billion in the cinema, a bit less, near $1 billion, but $8 billion in Broadway musical. And I think David is set up as a musical to be a Broadway musical. But our first chapter we've got to do is create a beautiful animated feature film. But if we can do that and pull that off, then my next dream is to go there, just because it's good to dream. So just to talk about that.
We're dreaming with you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. And
yes,
and just
I would love it to get there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
No, thank you guys from Angel Studios. You guys are just really inspiring and leading the way in such a beautiful and a way. I've just found you guys to have the most incredible integrity and vision, which is a great combination. So thank you guys for all you're doing beyond David in The Chosen and many other projects. We so appreciate you guys, and keep up the good work on Angel Studios side. Thank you. And
thank you.
We're going to end off by this. Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks, Neal. Have a good day. And for those of you with us still, we're just going to end off by showing the demo and that little pitch. And if you want to be part of the project, as Neal and Jeffrey and I were talking, you can go to angel.com/David. And Estella, thank you. Invested $3,000. Wow. Can I quickly look up the perk for $3,000 just before we end? So there's a $2,000 perk, which means you get a credit in the feature film, you get the quarterly video update, and you get a director's cut of the trailer and bonus video content. So there's the perk for the person who just invested. But most importantly, besides the perks, I think the biggest thing is what Neal was describing, being part of a community and giving into that community and being a co-creator with us and getting on the adventure with us. I think it's going to be such a journey and such a beautiful journey and ride together. So thank you. For all of you today who've invested and joined this adventure, thank you. We really appreciate it. And there's an update for us there. It's 4,131 people have invested, and it's over 3.2. We've got 15 days to go, and we're trying to get up to 5 mil on this investment round. So if you've got friends or family who you feel this would catch their imagination, please do feel free to share angel.com/David with them. I really want to say thank you for your time. Time is precious in our modern era. And one last thing I want to say is, in the David story, David is born into a world of fear and doubt. And we live in a world currently that is really gripped by fear. And I really believe by joining us and partnering us on this film, we're going to make a film that can show people the way out of fear, that in perfect love, there is no fear. And I hope David's story is going to touch people's lives in that way. So thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us today. And we're going to end off by watching the demo and then a little video clip at the end. I hope you enjoy it and look forward to seeing you soon. Good night and good day.
Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then, one more time. Tally, not now! I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa! No, not that way! Come on! Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait! Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost there. Okay. Oh! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. 할래니 נפשי ישובב ינחני במגע לצדק למען שמו.
What you have just watched is a concept short for a musical animated feature film on the story of David, and our vision is to tell it in the same quality as movies like Tangled and Frozen. This is more than a movie. This is a movement to join people from all over the world to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. You can show your interest in investing by going to angel.com/David. Growing up in the wild of Africa was the most incredible experience, and it was there that I bumped into the most amazing character of God and fell in love with him. At the same time, I was reading David's story, and it just really struck me. On one particular canoe trip on the Zambezi River, where you could canoe for days and not see a human being, I was reading the scriptures and I read, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. And I thought how amazing it would be to do a film that could give people all over the world a glimpse into God's heart. We grew up on a farm that had no electricity. I only saw my first film when I was 14 years old, and it was such an electric experience. I was blown away by the power of film and the power of story to connect with people and move people. And from that day, I became passionate to tell a story on the life of David. The question is, can a group of farmers from Africa make a global hit that's going to reach the world? This is in and of itself an incredible David versus Goliath story.
There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And in order to tell a story as big as David, we need people from all around the world to come together.
Over the last 20 years, Jackie and I have just been blown away by how God has miraculously drawn talent to us. Now we have the most awesome, high-quality team.
Like Nathan Stanton, who spent 22 years at Pixar, Jonas Myron, a Grammy Award-winning musician, Borja Montoro, a Disney animation alumni, other talent from massive films like Big Hero 6, Tangled, Finding Nemo, Zootopia, Moana, Prince of Egypt, and many more.
Our first breakout hit is Jungle Beat, an incredible and beautiful show. On our YouTube channel, we get over 2 billion views a year. We've got 7 million subscribers. We also recently released our first animated feature film called Jungle Beat the Movie. And incredibly, it was on Netflix's top 10 for over 2 weeks, both live action and animated feature films in the US. We are also doing a theatrical release of Jungle Beat the Movie in China later this year, and are in production of Jungle Beat the Movie 2. What really excites me is if you take Jungle Beat the Movie, we produced that for $5 million. And I'd really encourage you to go and watch it on Netflix to see the quality of movie we produced for that price. And just imagine the quality of movie we could produce on David with the proper budget. With David, we considered the route of engaging with Hollywood, and there is significant interest down that route. But we really felt that from a creative point of view, we need to stay the head and not the tail of this project. And it's a slingshot, like David went with a slingshot to fight Goliath. We really believe that the strategy needs to be outside the Hollywood system for it to work. In this vein, we are thrilled to be working with Angel Studios for distribution. Angel Studios did the TV series The Chosen, which has become the world's biggest TV series on the life of Jesus Christ. The Chosen has generated hundreds of millions of views and tens of millions of dollars. We've already got $19 million of investments and need another $35 million to complete this project. We need your help to bring God's heart to the world through the story of David. Go to angel.com/David to show your support for this project now. And let's join together to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release.